Welcome to another beautiful episode of the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast. This episode being Blunt Talk Quick Takes NFL edition. This is a new thing that we're starting right here exclusively on Podbean. As always, you can always check the show out on YouTube, Patreon, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. You look for other places to check out the Blunt Talk Sports Podcast and all of this content. I thank you guys as always like, share, and subscribing. It helps the channel. I thank you guys for being with me. A lot of things to unpack, a lot of things to get into in this episode, in this live stream broadcast. I definitely wanted to make sure that I was discussing a lot of the, real crazy and, you know, pertinent NFL topics I thought that were best to discuss, and some things I really felt like weren't really getting some of the attention, and maybe some things that were already being discussed. Aaron Rodgers and, not going with the Vikings. Also discussing some of these wide receivers, changing positions, changing teams, and seeing where these guys may potentially land. Also, something I want to discuss with the Giants, I think is definitely a big issue that's been a pattern that's been ongoing for some years. But nonetheless, like I said, before we get into it, definitely want to make sure, guys, if you're looking for the best, number one place in the world, leading getter for tickets to live events, shows, and concerts, you have to check out StubHub. For my UK subscribers out there, my people out there in the UK watching, definitely check out Viagogo if you're looking for the world's biggest reseller for tickets and largest ticket getter for events, to live shows, concerts, whatever it is that you're looking for. Some of those FC matches, some of those new concerts is coming up, tours. Definitely check out StubHub and Viagogo. And as we go a bit further, as again, happy as always, be back on Podbean and bring you guys another episode. We're going to dive right into Aaron Rodgers not becoming a Minnesota Viking. I think this was probably the best development over the past 12 hours. If you're a Minnesota Vikings fan, I really didn't feel like Brett Favre coming to the Minnesota Vikings was a great move. I feel like Brett Favre has been, well, I don't want to say Brett Favre. Let's just say, for lack of better words, Aaron Rodgers. See, I misspoke because, let's be honest, he's been in the shoes of Brett Favre. I mean, it just seems really, really startling that Aaron Rodgers has just been in the same trajectory, same limelight, same role, same methodology. Totally different people, but very much the same methodology in how they move and maneuver. It's hilarious. I mean, to be quite honest with you, looking at things the way they are, Aaron Rodgers really, 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 for lack of better words, has put himself in a situation where I don't know what it is that he thinks he's possibly obtaining out of this, or what he thought by dragging this out, putting, the Steelers, the Vikings, and a litany of other teams in a situation where, albeit they're all kind of wagering for him, but let's just be quite fucking honest. Aaron Rodgers is washed. The Aaron Rodgers that we are all known and accustomed to and used to seeing, the guy that has been the perennial MVP, the all-star, the guy that was an all-pro, that guy is gone. That guy has not been on a winning team, a productive roster, conducive to anything winning in over 3 years. I mean, it's been very bad. I mean, keep in mind, guys, he leaves the Green Bay Packers. They're a non-playoff team. The very following year, they make the playoffs with Jordan Love. He goes to the Jets. Okay, he's out for a year. Bad injury. Okay, we understand things happen. Things don't work out the way that we want to for him to. He torn ACL on that shitty turf in MetLife. Okay, we get it. And then all of a sudden he comes back last year, and that's the numbers that he puts up. That's the result that he put up. That's what he laid down. It was very, very disgusting. It very much was a shit show. Not really sure what he was like. Getting Randall Cobb in there, getting Alan Lazard. I mean, I could go over a litany of things that just didn't make sense for Aaron Rodgers and the Jets and that whole organization last season. But Aaron Rodgers himself specifically, over the past 3 years, has not been a part of anything winning or anything conducive to winning. As a matter of fact, he's been one of the major reasons why his team hasn't won. Whether it be turnovers, off the field, jargon and bullshit, whatever it is, he just has not played up to the standard that we expect out of an Aaron Rodgers, or expect out of a guy that's been a multiple-time MVP. That being said, big report came out today by Tom Pelissero from NFL Media Group. He released on Twitter, and he also released via NFL.com. The Vikings have rejected multiple trade calls on J.J. McCarthy, telling other teams they're moving forward with him as their starting quarterback, sources say. However, he does say that the team plans to add a veteran, but they're just not pursuing Aaron Rodgers at this time. And McCarthy now enters the offseason as the number one quarterback. To be quite honest with you, I find that breathtakingly hilarious because it should not have taken this long for a response to come out from the Minnesota Vikings stating this. You drafted JJ McCarthy with a number one selection not even a year ago. You haven't even given this kid time to be ass or to be good. And you're just already, well, we need to try to win now. Vikings, don't bullshit yourself. You had Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold, let's be honest, with Kevin McConnell, best he's looked as an NFL quarterback. With all that being said, we all know Sam Darnold is flawed. Sam Darnold is nowhere, everywhere he's been, the knock has been, okay, once he starts playing that little haywire act, starts putting the ball in play, starts doing some shit that he doesn't really belong or need to be doing, turnovers will come. So, and we see. I mean, we saw the last two games for the Minnesota Vikings, grand total of 18 points. I mean, clearly Sam Darnold, he couldn't get the ball in the damn end zone. Now we can play the offensive line, but that game against Detroit, he played like dog shit. Played like shit. So, be that as it may, you got to go with JJ. This gives you time with the rookie contract. This gives you time to fortify the roster and put some more starters, some good talent around JJ. Really build a quality Super Bowl caliber roster that can compete in the NFC. And more importantly, put yourself in a situation where you're competing for a championship because that's ultimately what it's about. I mean, if you're Minnesota, there's no reason why you shouldn't be knocking on the door right now. You've drafted well throughout the past several years. You've placed yourself in prime position to get good players. To be honest, I mean, to be even more frank, you should. The fact that you won 14 games, it was a bit of a, fluke, but it's a great sign because it shows that the roster you're building is very good and that the coaching is getting the best out of the roster. Now, that being said, figure out what you got with McCarthy. You're going to have him on his rookie deal, add some more talent, tell Kwesi Adolfo Mensa that, figure out something with that salary cap. There's things that can be done for Minnesota to be in position to be contending for the next several years and to have JJ McCarthy with the most talent around him and to put him in the most prime position. So I think it was a great move by the Minnesota Vikings. Now I do hint the fact that, and you guys can't see me right now, it's audio, but for my video subscribers and people that watch this on video, you'll see my air quotes that they said, hence, but they're not pursuing Aaron Rodgers at this time. Kind of leaves the door cracked, I guess. I don't know. We'll see. But Aaron Rodgers is definitely not going to be a Minnesota Viking at this moment. JJ McCarthy is going to start, so I think that's just a better move for the team. I think that's smarter, and I think trajectory-wise, it's just the best thing possible for the Minnesota Vikings going forward. This next topic, I love this one. This one was a little bit weird to me because it took me some time to kind of go over it. But I was interested because, as we all know, free agency, even though it's still going on, the biggest names and the biggest wave of it, first two waves, initial waves are gone, come and gone. And we're now in a situation where you're going to be seeing some, what we call the value signing stage of free agency, where you got guys out there that, maybe were big names at one point or former big names, but still can play, just not at that level they once played at. And maybe they're able to get somewhere on a good deal and, still produce. That's the season that we're in now. This is what some will call, my wife will call Temu shopping season. So be it as it may, looking at it, the best free agent wide receiver landing spots after free agency, after the first and second initial waves. Here's my top 5 list, and I will dive into why I place these guys in the specific top 5. Number 1, Davante Adams with the Los Angeles Rams. Number 2, DK Metcalf with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 3, Cooper Kupp with the Seattle Seahawks. Number 4, Christian Kirk with the Houston Texans. And number 5, DeAndre Hopkins with the Baltimore Ravens. Now, a little bit of a precarious top 5. Definitely a switch up from what I'm used to doing, what I typically do. But I wanted to try to give you some variation and give you some understanding of why I picked this select 5 after the first and second wave of initial free agency. We're going back to number 1. Or, we can start we can start from 5. We can go from 5 to 1. Starting number 5 with DeAndre Hopkins. DeAndre Hopkins didn't have the Super Bowl he wanted. He had a touchdown in it, but it had a crucial drop as well. I mean, obviously the Chiefs lost the game, so he didn't have necessarily the end to the season that he wanted. But DeAndre Hopkins was very serviceable last year for the Kansas City Chiefs. still think he has a lot left in the tank. I think that right now, when you look at the situation, especially in Baltimore, and it's kind of funny because Baltimore has never really had a great wide receiver history. Typically, most of their good wide receivers come through free agency, a la Steve Smith, the Derek Masons. Granted, they just drafted Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman. No, that was kind of like the biggest switch up in recent memory as far as wide receivers. But typically, I mean, even fucking TJ Houshmandzadeh had a stint as a Baltimore Raven at one point. So, they definitely go after receivers in free agency typically to make their splash and impact. But DeAndre Hopkins, I feel like is a guy that definitely can help this team. I mean, he's definitely somebody that has been solid, been a responsible vet for most of his career, but a guy that you can rely on. And looking at the situation that the Ravens are in, it came down to you last year in the playoff game not having Zay Flowers and not having. You were technically had the running game to win. You should have won the game for Baltimore, in my personal opinion. But that being said, that passing offense was left a lot to be desired in that Buffalo game. So definitely feel like the wide receivers could have been better on the outside. Maybe if you had Zay Flowers, but you know ultimately that game came down to a lot of turnovers. But I definitely like DeAndre Hopkins. I definitely feel like he could definitely add something to them. I mean, last year, let's take a look. He had, let's see, 41 catches. Yeah, he had 41 catches, 437 yards, and 4 touchdowns. So definitely not, definitely, 2 years removed from his last 1,000 yard season, which was in Tennessee. However, this guy is still good, 500 to 700 yards, 800 yards. I definitely think he's going to be a great addition for the Baltimore Ravens. Number 4, Christian Kirk. Christian Kirk. Now, this guy, I think you're going to have a bounce back year, a good year, strictly because of fit and resurgence. Christian Kirk did not have a good year in Jacksonville last year. Things did not go the way that he was kind of hoping. And it happens like that sometimes. I mean, you just, you have to be honest with self. When you're looking at the situation where that Jacksonville team was just shit, the roster was shit, you're in a situation where you got to kind of make the best of what's going on. Now, I do feel like also Trevor Lawrence taking a step back, the offense regressing. It definitely didn't help Christian Kirk, where his game definitely suffered a bit. But nonetheless, I think him going to Houston is a tremendous move. Houston needs a burner like him. They need somebody that can help take a top off of defense and make splash plays here and there. Also can help with special teams. Now, last year, again, like I said, down year for him. He had 27 catches, 379 yards, 1 touchdown. He did not really play the type of season that he would have hoped for. It looks like he was out of it. He was injured for the most part of the season. So we'll see. We'll see how everything works out for him. But after not getting the production that they got out of Stephon Diggs, getting Christian Kirk makes sense because let's be honest, Christian Kirk can give you that same production, if not a little bit more. And your team still wind up benefiting and being good out of it. So I like that move. I definitely think he's going to add an impact to the Houston Texans offense, especially with Bobby Slovic being out now as offensive coordinator. I think that is going to be a huge jump for Houston. So I like Christian Kirk addition to the team. Like I said, I definitely think that was great. Speaking of Cooper, though, Cooper Kupp going to the Seattle Seahawks. Low key, I like the addition. Kind of confused because if you got rid of Tyler Lockett and you got rid of DK Metcalf, if you want to get rid of DK, didn't understand why you got rid of Tyler Lockett, especially if you're going to bring in Cooper Kupp, who's, been one of the best receivers in NFL history, but hands down has been one of the most injured guys, you know. But he's a great route runner, tactician in that. Let's see, last season, you're talking about a guy with 67 catches, 710 yards, 6 touchdowns, and that was next to Puka Nacua being the number 2. Again, did not have the separation that he's most commonly used to. Did not really play at that great level that we're used to seeing him play at. However, in the Seattle Seahawks offense, having numbers like that will help Seattle tremendously. I think he's pissed off that he got cut by the Rams. I think that he's pissed off and he feels neglected and rejected. I think this could be a bounce back or a potential big season for Cooper Kupp. Definitely looking for big things. Not necessarily a 1,000 yard season, but who knows? I mean, somewhere between 700 to 900 yards, definitely feasible in Seattle in that offense. Former Seattle Seahawks, DK Metcalf, running out at number 2. I think he's definitely going to have a great season next year. Now, interesting to know who the hell his quarterback is going to be because let's be real. The one knock we've always had is DK Metcalf has never had the quarterback that we felt like some of these other guys have had. You were talking about a guy who's been in the league since 2019. He's had 3,000 yard seasons. His best season coming in 2023, where he had 11-14 as far as receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. Now, the season where he had the most touchdowns would actually be in 2021, where he had 12. This guy, he gets catches. He makes plays. He's definitely not a slouch. He definitely shows up and puts in work. However, DK, last year splitting touches with Jackson Smith and Jigba, he only had 992 yards, 5 touchdowns. So definitely looking to make an impact in Pittsburgh. Question is, who the fuck is the quarterback going to be? You kind of felt like it wasn't going to be Russell Wilson, especially after that disaster from last year, with the way last year ended. However, they signed Mason Rudolph, which I think low key was kind of a signal that they're not bringing back Russ. But the question is, who are you? If you can't be Mason Rudolph, that's the answer. So, not sure what they're going to do. Not sure if that Russell door is completely closed, but they definitely seem like they're going to need a quarterback. But I think DK is going to help open the top, take the top off the offense for the Steelers. He's definitely going to help George Pickens. Definitely going to help whoever they get at running back. So, great addition there. And rounding out the list, of course, is one of the guys I call Mr. Unreliable, and that would be Davante Adams, who is now a Los Angeles Ram. Let me say this. Davante Adams, and, we're talking about a guy who, before was getting anywhere between 11 to 15, 1,600 yards, in the receiving season, averaging 14 touchdowns at one point, definitely nowhere near the level of what he had once produced. But I have to be honest. I have to give this man complete credit. You had 1,000 yard season last year. You played technically for the Raiders and the Jets. I got to give you credit. You got that off. You played for two different franchises, still had 1,000 yard season. You had 67 catches, 854 yards, and 7 touchdowns with the Jets. 18 catches, 209 yards, 1 touchdown with the Raiders. So those yards combined, you had 1,000 yard season. But more importantly, Cooper Kupp couldn't get separation. That's ultimately why he's no longer a Los Angeles Ram. That's why he's in Seattle. Davante Adams can still get separation. And the fact that he's going to be playing with Puka Nacua, they're going for that big physical wide receiver look. I definitely think they're going to definitely add something in the running game. I got to give the Rams credit. They played Philadelphia tough and close in that playoff game in the divisional round. I mean, it seems like from there they didn't let up. They feel like they now got to take a charge and make a move. I like a lot of the moves that they're making. Don't know if it's going to benefit them yet right away. Didn't like how they handled the Matt Stafford situation, but they have him back in the fold. Nonetheless, Davante Adams playing with Matt Stafford in that offense with Sean McVay, I definitely think that he's going to be primed for a big season. And again, that's why I have my top five as Adams, Metcalf, Kupp, Kirk, and Hopkins as best free agent acquisition landed spots or pickups after the first 2 weeks of free agency. And now this last segment that I definitely wanted to touch on, guys. This one has been something that I really, really, really wanted to get into. I've been delaying it. It's something that I'm going to wait until after the draft to finish the full story on because I'm doing a little bit more research. And I want to definitely have some things vetted and checked and certified for you before I put it out there. But I'm going to touch on those New York Football Giants. Please forgive me, too. I'm getting over a little bit of a cold. But nonetheless, the New York Football Giants. My question has been for a while now, and it's something that I've reviewed. As a matter of fact, before I even did this episode of doing the research, I can go back as far as 2016, checking some of the records of things that I've reviewed on my own. My question was, what's up with the Giants and black quarterbacks? Now, most of you that will have listened to this, or those of you that are Giants fans that listen to this, will probably say, what the hell is this guy talking about? The Giants have definitely had black quarterbacks. Geno's been there, Tyrod Taylor, most recently of late. They've had famous black players in their organization. What are you trying to say? They're racist? What are you getting at? I don't even know, to be honest with you. I don't even know exactly what I'm trying to get at yet. But I just want you to take a journey with me and tell me if this is not an alarming pattern or if this doesn't make sense. The Giants, the New York Football Giants, have played football for over 100 years. In their over 101, 102, we'll say 102 years now of existence, they have only had 2 black quarterbacks start for them in their history. Now, when you keep in mind this same franchise has produced the likes of the Danny Cannells, Kerry Collins, Tommy DeVito's, you know, the reclamation project formerly known as David Carr, after the Texans. You get the gist. Very, 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 very horrible record of picking great quarterbacks outside of Eli and Phil Simms. That being said, I get, I went into it looking like, maybe it's because they have a statuesque build or prototype of what they look for at the quarterback position and things like that. So, I went back and did some research, and if you want to find some, like I said, as you're on this journey with me, tell me if these tidbits, trip you out or don't make any sense. Geno Smith was the first black quarterback to start for the Giants after Eli Manning was benched in 2017. Now, for you Giants fans or for NFL fans out there that remember, that was the year Eli was playing like immortal dog shit. When the team wanted to bench him because they knew it was pretty much, over, and they just kind of wanted to, you know, get him out the pasture, and they put Geno in, and there was an uproar, and things just didn't go right. And ultimately, they put Eli Manning back in. And then we fast forward a couple years later to 2023, where you have Tyrod Taylor getting in to replace Daniel Jones to become the first black quarterback to win a game for the Giants. Now, let that sink in. The Giants were the last team to field a starting quarterback during an NFL season at any point in NFL history. I don't understand when you say Eli Manning was like Eli Manning was their quarterback for a long time. They didn't really have guys or have opportunities to really draft well or draft high. And I would even contest with you. I would even agree with you and not contest that. What I would contest though is I don't think that they were really looking. Case in point, they found, and I had to do some research on this. They found Andre Woodson Jr. For you University of Kentucky fans, you guys are going to love these two because I'm going to bring up a couple of University of Kentucky quarterbacks at the moment. But if you guys remember Andre Woodson Jr., he played from the year 2004 to 2007. Had a nice college career, 9,360 passing yards, 79 touchdowns, 25 interceptions. That's not even the important part. The important part was Andre Woodson Jr. was, decently scouted quarterback. Wasn't necessarily the highest touted prospect coming out in the draft, but definitely has some potential. Definitely looked like he could be something. He was drafted out of the Giants in the 6th round 2008 draft. So you're probably thinking there too. Aha, see, you said they never drafted a black quarterback. Look, they drafted one. That's correct. But I would also want to preference too that in that one season with the Giants, he never played the snap, was essentially gone, and was replaced that same year. Now keep in mind, this is 2007, 2008, well, 2008 draft, but 2007, 2008 season. He was replaced for Jared Lorenzen, aka the former hefty lefty at the University of Kentucky, and arguably one of the biggest, pudgiest, big body quarterbacks you probably will ever see in NFL history. The hefty lefty, may he rest in peace, had passed away in 2019 at age 38 from cardiovascular disease. He battled with weight his whole career. So get this in mind of what I'm saying to you. They essentially got rid of Andre Woodson Jr. for a guy who battled with weight issues, who outside of college football was not even an NFL quality or caliber starting quarterback, and was too damn fat by NFL weight standards to play the quarterback position. Again, rest in peace to the hefty lefty Jared Lorenzen. I don't really blame Jared Lorenzen for getting the opportunity. I really blame the New York Giants for not really taking a chance or really wanting to take a stab on African American quarterbacks. And I don't know if it's a thing that they're scared. They really just felt like the right one hasn't been there and presented to them, but they've had multiple occasions and multiple opportunities. Daniel Jones was a flop. Daniel Jones was a flop. He fit the prototype build of what they would look for in a quarterback, mental makeup, build, frame, all that. And that went to shit, very quickly. You really haven't had a quarterback since Eli left. And it just seems like brothers don't really get too many opportunities in the New York Giants organization to get started enough to really do anything. I want to give a shout out to Chris Carter for stating on his show that he co-hosts the other day. I forget the name. I'll definitely have the description and the link so you guys can check it out. But he mentions it within the first 20 seconds of the preview of the episode about how they have a history of not drafting black quarterbacks high. So this is not something that I'm just necessarily surmising. It's something that I've researched and looked into. It's very startling. It shows you that there's definitely some things that have to change. The Giants are definitely operating off an old methodology and an old mindset that's not really benefiting them right now. And that being that, some things are going to have to change if the Giants are going to have to get back to winning football. Because I can promise you, even if there's nowhere stated that they don't like black quarterbacks, I can promise you, you don't get a good quarterback, period, soon. You're going to keep getting your ass kicked by those young black quarterbacks in the NFC East. And it's a situation where, you're looking and it's just like, what has happened with the Giants where that's something that has been allowed, they've been allowed to get away with for a long time and no one's ever really said anything, spoke up or noticed it. But I do think with all that doom and gloom that I said, I think that there's a great chance it will change this spring. I do think it will change. I do think that they are going to draft the first, top selected African American quarterback in their history. I don't know if it's Shador Sanders. I do think that's probably the running bet, but I definitely think it'll happen this year because they need it. They don't have a quarterback. Dayball and Joe Shane after the horrible free agency decisions, a la Saquon Barkley, Xavier McKinney, you know, and then this year, letting go of, other players out the door for nothing. They're in a situation where they have to win and they have to win big. And I'm not even necessarily saying Super Bowl, but they got to get to the playoffs and they got to make an impact. So definitely interesting. So I definitely think that they're going to have to get one of those guys. That guy probably more likely being Shador, seeing how the draft board falls out. But nonetheless, guys, I thank you as always for watching. It's going to wrap it up for my NFL quick takes episode. Like I said, I'll do this episode periodically, like once a week, going over 3 random topics that I definitely think I wanted to discuss a little bit further and dive into. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Like I said, you can check the show out not just on Podbean, you can check me out on YouTube, Patreon, Substack. You can also check the show out as well in Apple Podcasts. So, as always, guys, take care. Have a great night. Enjoy and be safe.